And Alain will give us today a talk about Emacs, and I'm very well informed that he has prepared a lot, so please don't ask any questions. No, actually, I know that he likes to have questions, so do that, and then we will probably, depending on the time schedule, have to rush, after the talk, rush off to the place that I made a reservation at, and we'll have our discussion there.
When is the reservation?
At 9, so...
At 9, yeah.
2 hours
I can
talk
wing
and
it.
discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, good evening, Clojurians. It's nice to see so many of you here. I'm quite happy about that. It's growing quite nicely. So today we will have a little pivot. I'll talk about something related to Clojure, an ancient text editor, but we're going to play it like an instrument. So it's going to be fun. Okay, so today will be a lot of demonstration, but there's also going to be a lot of slides. So in the beginning, I'll start just with a couple of impressions. So what can Emacs actually look like? Then in good Clojure talk fashion, I will first declare and define all the terms of my title, because otherwise no one has a clue what I'm talking about. Then will be the actual live demonstration with playing like an instrument. Then I will come to a conclusion, which hopefully some of you will come to as well. And then there will be time for closing words. Okay. So, but first, very little bit about me. So I founded the company 200OK together with Phil. We are a small shop building software. Sometimes we can use Clojure, that's quite nice. We actually have our own products built in Clojure. I'm also a lecturer at the local University of Applied Sciences of Zurich. And pardon? Of course, software engineering. So I try to sneak in as much functionality as possible. So usually I'm teaching something related with JavaScript, but that's about as good as it gets. But it's quite nice. I like it. Also, there's a couple of students and former students in the room, so that works out quite nicely. I mean, teaching is really cool because you get to know a lot of people, and those people, they all come from various different backgrounds. So you always have to kind of figure out what are their needs, why are they sitting in the room. So every class and every person is very different. So it actually hones the skill set a whole lot. You cannot just blurt out like, this is good, why? And then you have to come up with something. So
now you see what happens if you ask questions. It's still on the slide.
Yeah. So the whole talk is not going to be about me. I apologize.
First strike.
Yes. So as a Zen monk, usually when I talk about a subject, it's either a 1 second talk or a 2 hours talk. So you're in for the latter. Okay. Very well. So before we begin with anything, I have to do the formal introduction here. So who actually uses Emacs? Wow, quite a lot of you. That's nice. Yeah. Okay. So all of you already are living like this. This is quite nice. That's actually the Emacs source code. On the left, C. On the right, elisp. And the GNU that you are probably familiar with. Okay, so since most of you are already using Emacs, is it kind of because of Clojure, or who is it using because of Clojure? Who pivoted to Emacs? So maybe a fifth, a fourth? And the remainder of you, what are you using Emacs for? What's your daily driver? Like coding, or are you doing other stuff? Anyone's doing any other stuff than coding with Emacs? Wow, that's a lot. Okay, so maybe you can teach me later. This will be a good beer afterwards. I'm looking forward to that. So, any Vim users in the room? A couple. That's nice. Yeah, that's a good choice as well. As you can see, I'm kind of in the middle of the holy wars. So, I've got my 14 years of Vim before I pivoted to Emacs, which is nice because you can take all your knowledge with you. It's quite nice. So was there anyone else left? I'm not even sure. Who's not using Emacs or Vim? At least one person, 2 people, okay, 3, okay, 4. Okay, so maybe, sometimes, this is you, maybe, but maybe not. And I also don't mean it in a mean way. This is actually a part of, it's not a random rant, I'm actually leading up to a point which I will be getting at in like an hour or so. So don't judge me now. It's not. It's really not meant to be harmful or something. It's not like I know better, because I don't. Okay. So as for questions, I will cover a whole lot of ground in this talk, and this is due to the fact that most of my time spent on the computer is spent in Emacs, and for worse or better, I spend a lot of time on the computer, so yes, so it's not going to be lightning talk. Huh? However, if there's any questions at any point in time, please don't hesitate to ask, because Phil doesn't know the slides, so I'm a friendly guy, so just tell me up front whatever you said is plainly wrong or stupid, and I can totally deal with it. I will be happy to learn something new. Okay, so now that we have covered a little bit of ground, let's see what Emacs can actually look like. So I call this the faces of Emacs. Of course, obviously, there is inception as the first slide, because we are actually in Emacs right now. Of course, I have written this code in Emacs, and all the stuff on the right kind of builds the stuff. All the stuff on the left builds the stuff on the right, so kind of nice. The tools that I used for that is org mode and PDF tools. So I'm actually looking at a PDF within Emacs, and I built from a markup language up to a PDF. So of course there's LaTeX in the background as well. And it's quite nice. I'm not only using it for presentations like that, it's actually my PDF viewer and editor of choice. I have not yet seen a better one. Okay, then of course you can do other stuff. For example, I do all my mail, and fortunately I'm in the position to do a lot of mail, so I have to do it efficiently. And I prefer to do it in Emacs for various reasons. So this is just a little teaser image to show you that you can see HTML mail just as well as textual mail. And I want to take this slide as a special tribute to Stan, who led the Clojure Meetup for so many years, and is here today and has handed it over to us for the time being. But he's a co-host, he can do anything with the meetup that he wants to, of course. So this is my mail client. It's called Move4E, so Move for Emacs. Okay, then you can do other stuff. For example, I do sometimes coding or other kinds of texts, and all of those texts, of course, like mail, could be configuration or letters or even email or code. All of this, of course, is in revision control, and I do all my revision control directly from within Emacs. So this is Git. That's a wrapper called Magit, or Magit, some people call it. It's actually a Swiss product that has been recently crowdfunded, but it's completely open source. It's a very nice tool. Some people call it one of the killer applications of Emacs. They actually switched to Emacs just for that. And if the beamer would be a little bit bigger, you could even see that right now I'm configuring my Emacs in a literate config, but I will get to that later. The screen doesn't have high res here. Of course, I do all of my organizational tasks in Emacs as well. For example, this is a list of money that someone might owe me. And it's nice, it's a spreadsheet, it's just in text. I can easily have it under revision control, and I can do the regular things like accumulating different numbers, and it even handles it nicely. So for example, this particular situation owes me Japanese yen, euro, US dollars, and francs, and everything accumulates just nicely. I just say, sum it up, and it just works. Okay. Of course, sometimes you gotta look stuff up, then you browse the web. no better tool than to use Emacs, especially in those days where everyone tries to track you and steal all your data. And I mean, it's not so much a moral issue for me, it's more browsing is too slow for me by now. If you're being tracked by so many different pages, then it's bad. So when I read my news, I actually do use Emacs. And the package is called EWW, or this person actually came up with the name before she wrote the thing. So now it's called the Emacs Web Browser, because she had the acronym before she had the product. Okay. Okay, and then some weird people might actually even use Emacs for coding, right? I mean, since there's Clojurians in the room, I thought I'll add a screenshot of that. So that's actually Clojure code, and there's a test that's failing, and it's probably pretty much the nicest error message I've ever seen in an IDE for failing tests, because I can clearly see where the test is failing, and I get very nice semantic information. I can see that I was expecting a 42 and I'm getting back a 24, so very much in line. I can immediately change everything, and of course this is all due to Cider and the nice code contributions of Bozidar Batsov. Okay, yeah, well, and then the last one is not really a phase of Emacs, but like I mentioned, you can actually write your configuration in literate style in Emacs. That's quite nice. So this is my configuration on GitHub, which just so happened to be also good, easily to read. So if we open that up in a browser, I was prepared actually for that, but then my machine died. So all of that is my Emacs configuration, and all of that is quite nicely readable and has a lot of text in there, not just code. You can easily read it and understand what it does. So literate programming, quite a nice feat. I'm also doing that with org mode. Okay, so to quote some other geek, there's infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Huh? So what really is Emacs then? I mean, it can look very, very differently. What does it mean? Okay, so let's go into some definitions. Well, you can actually ask Emacs what it is. You can just hit up Control-H-I for all the info manuals and then ask it, well, where does it say Emacs? I'm kind of blind here. Emacs, and then it says...
No, it was, you clicked Emacs.
No, this is quite nice here. Origin of the term Emacs, and then it explains to you that it was originally an acronym for the editor macros. Okay, so and the first Emacs was a set of macros written in 1976. This is quite old, at MIT, by some guy that goes by an acronym RMS. So, and they built it for this incompatible time-sharing system, which used to be the operating system of choice. Okay, so 1976, that's quite old. Maybe someone might think, well, okay, maybe back like 42 years ago, by the way, Emacs was kind of good looking, but I mean, also powerful, but I mean, machines in the 70s were they really powerful compared to what we have today. Maybe like with old age and dancing with it, it kind of slowly wears it down, and then maybe it's time to put it down and maybe bury it even. So does it really make sense to use Emacs? I mean, I hope you believe the opposite, because you're still here. And if you want to know why, you're totally at the right place. I will get to that. All the pictures are taken from Valhalla, what movie? 1986. Also old, but much younger than Emacs. I mean, Emacs was already 10 years old back when I saw this movie. Okay, so if we dig deeper, where does Emacs come from? It's actually quite interesting, because Emacs is the mother of all that is free software. I mean, that should be like a little breather. And free software actually is a very specific term. It doesn't mean open source. It's a very different thing. This term was there before there was open source. So this guy that I mentioned, called RMS, or Richard Stallman, in the 70s he was working for the MIT, and they did some code sharing back then, and then they switched to something after the PDP-10, like this old machine, and then they couldn't share a source anymore because the operating system was proprietary, the editor was proprietary, and the compiler was proprietary. And he said to himself, well, most of my buddies were already bought by this other evil company. I'm the only guy left that knows how to build something better. So he actually tried to build an operating system. And for that he needed a lot of stuff. And in the beginning, the first thing that you need is actually a text editor, which was Emacs. But he also did other things that you probably know, like GCC, the GNU compiler collection, or GNU, the operating system, and he's also the founder of these other things that might ring a bell, like the GPL license and the Free Software Foundation, and all of that is very well known through GNU and Linux. And this version of Emacs that we're talking about, or that I'm using, actually is the GNU Emacs. There's lots of different Emacs's in the world, and this one right here dates back to 1985, so it's a much younger, well, 18, who cares? It's very old. And of course I also saw that by going into the manual and reading the manual, so it's quite nice. I would even go so far to say we have a self-documentation win, because all the information that I've given you so far is within Emacs and just behind a shortcut. So what I did is I went into the info pages, Control-I for info, and I read the tutorial under Control-HT for tutorial. Of course, we will go much further into the amazing self-documentation capabilities of Emacs in a moment. Okay, so yeah, I mentioned GNU. That's probably, I mean, it's a little away from Emacs, but I kind of like at least to mention it. GNU was this idea to bring an operating system into the world that actually respects users' freedom, so that we can actually see what runs on our machines, we can modify it, and we can distribute it, and we can do with it whatever we like. And I mean, in this day and age, these options are getting narrowed down again. So it's good to remember that the tools that we use actually come from this time. Okay, but we were talking about Emacs. So what was the initial selling proposition? What did he try to achieve? Because there were other editors out there already. It was the 70s. Computing was around since ages. So what Emacs did, what made it special, is that it's a real-time editor. This wasn't a thing before. There were line editors before. And it could actually be extended by the user while it was running. For Lisp users, such as yourself, this might sound like a good idea. Because extensibility, or this particular extensibility, actually makes Emacs much more flexible than other editors. Because Emacs users are not limited by the decisions made by the Emacs implementers. And Stallman had that in a paper that he submitted to the ACM in 1981. Okay, but enough about Emacs definitions, we kind of got that down. But then I said, we're also talking about playing Emacs like an instrument. So what is actually playing? And this is kind of important for this talk. So let me start with a quote by a guy called Arno Stern. He's 94 by now, still very much alive, doing a lot of stuff, and he's working as an artist with children since 70 years or 75 years. I mean, that's a very long time, and for him playing is immensely interesting. And he says that adults kind of lose this ability, and it's getting worse in the last 75 years. So what he says, for example, that's a nice quote of him: "A brush stroke on paper, an utterance without intent, which only follows its own needs, brings man back to the self." So it's kind of important, this ability of playing. So what does playing look like? How can we as adults play? I mean, usually we think about children doing stuff on the floor or whatever. I mean, as geeks, we can totally go and constrain ourselves, right? So this was me in 2004. I kind of imagined to be in a world without graphical user interfaces and tried to live through it. And it happens to be that it was actually quite efficient. So even in 2004, there was good browsers on the console. I could watch movies, I could do everything. I could even play Quake with ASCII art. This was quite nice. Okay, so you can see how far can you go with a constraint. And this is the most interesting form of play that I like to immerse myself in, and I try to go down that rabbit hole quite intensely. So a couple lifetimes ago I gave away all my stuff, went backpacking for 1.5 years, did all kinds of crazy stuff like go to Japan, and after everything that usually is convenient and considered to be important, after all of this goes away, then you are just stuck to ask yourself, like, what is this? This is a picture from Enpokuji Monastery in Kyoto, Japan. So I kind of like to constrain myself with things, and this is actually very interesting because then you have to find a creative solution, not just the obvious solution. Of course, you can do the obviously fun things like play with color or throw people into some mountain lakes. Come to Glarus, nice. I mean, here is nice, but Glarus, good place. We have a place that's open daily, and yeah, you can actually even play an instrument. Okay, so those are the forms of playing that you could do, or other stuff. But what does it mean? What's the official definition? Well, play actually is a range of voluntary, intrinsically motivated activities. And it occurs at any stage of life, so it kind of goes with self-exploration. And why did I go into this deep rabbit hole about playing? Well, this actually used to be the original definition of hacking. Like in the 70s, people kind of had this as hacking. And I'm not just saying this, at least one article I put down there. So probably we are onto something. Maybe we should try to figure out creative ways of doing stuff. But why? Well, let's go and see. So now I'll be switching gears. There will be no more static slides. There will be some real-time coding. So I will use a lot of features of Emacs, and I will try to announce everything that I'm starting for the first time, but probably I will miss once or twice. If I'm losing you or something was too fast or too slow, just don't hesitate to ask. Okay, so live coding, what can go wrong? Huh? That's my home setup. I hope you're all using good keyboards, because we're not getting younger, right? Okay, so live coding. First thing that you should do when you start to do anything, right, is start an editor. So for the first stigma of Emacs that it's slow, let's see how long it takes. It's instant. It's quite nice, because Emacs can actually also run as a daemon, right? So now I connected a client to my daemon, and I can have as many as I like and do all kinds of things in them. So it's actually fast. I mean, back in the day, Emacs was also called 8 megabytes and constantly swapping, right? But now we have so many. We have such great machines. Emacs is not big anymore, so that's a no-brainer. Okay, so what should I do first, right? Maybe I should check my to-dos for the day. I have a little function here called things. This opens my general project management and will also show me what I have to do today. So this is also in org mode. There's all kinds of stuff here. This looks like a small file, but if you go down here, you see it actually has close to 4,000 lines of stuff. And this is only the stuff that I'm working at right now. There's linked files up there as well, and I can drill down in everything. And down here I can see my agenda for today. There obviously was only one talk, only one task for me. I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch, but the remainder is covered under an NDA, so I had to kill it. I had to prepare a talk. Okay, that's done. Next thing is play Emacs like an instrument. Okay, so maybe that's probably also done, but later they will be having a beer. Okay, so that's quite nice. Okay, so org mode, you can do stuff with it. I can say I have tasks that are scheduled. I can move them around, I can tag them, I can search for them. It's amazing. Org mode, you should check it out. Definitely one of the big ones out there. Okay, so how do we continue? Maybe I should check my mail or something. And then, wow, there's this mail from Mr. Important Customer. So now I'm using Mu4e. That's a mail client, Mu4e. And it's completely search driven. I actually have 4 different email accounts: private, business, other business, Zen Temple, and all of it is on my machine. It's locally stored as well through offline IMAP, sorted through procmail, and then there is a search filter on top of it called Mu. And I have a client accessing all this goodness called Mu4e in Emacs. And it's quite nice because, for example, I can say, give me all my unread messages. And this is all my unread messages for all my different mailboxes. Or I can go into a very specific one and say I want to go into the inbox of 200 OK. Or I can see, what is the spam that I got? Oh, no, maybe I have to know this is really spam. Let's go get rid of it. So it's very fast, it's very convenient, it's all shortcut driven, and it's all open source, and it will stay the same in the same configuration, workable for eons. It's quite nice. Okay, so I had this one interesting mail from this customer, right? So let's try if I can see that, find that one again. Where was it? It's red now, of course. So it's, where did it go to? So I lost it, but I remember it was Mr. Important Customer, so I can search for it. Mr. Important, no, important. Ah, there he is, okay. Of course you can search for all kinds of stuff, like from someone with an attachment, what kind of attachment, you can search for everything. It's very fast, very nice. Okay, so this Mr. Important Customer says, Dear La, I have a high priority task for you. Please create an image gallery of some Emacs related pictures. A static page will do. This is the host. Bill me more if you never leave Emacs to do it. Well, he left out an if, but he meant that it should be. Well, of course, this is the regular clientele. I always have these kinds of customers. Okay, so, but this is usually how work starts, right? You get like an email. And then it gets tricky because now you have to use your project management software, like Jira or something, right? And then there's already like missing information. How do you link your email to Jira? Of course, you can forward it to some Jira, whatever, but why should you use your best possible tool set? So what I will do now is I will create a to-do or a project right from this email, and they will be forever interlinked. So I will have, maybe this was a little too fast. I have a nice little feature here called capture templates. It's also an org feature. Like I mentioned, org really is totally a killer feature. And I have some capture templates, things that I usually like to capture when I am within Emacs. Capturing means I will create a new entry in my organization system. So I could create a code snippet, shopping item, or a media link. All of those have different metadata, of course, right? Like a link has a URL or something. And a to-do has some information. So let's call this should be probably a project. There's more than one thing that I need to do. Here it says when I started this project, and here there is the link to the email. So let's call this create static page of Emacs images. And then I can just file it and it's gone. And the nice thing now is I can actually archive this email and it will not be in my inbox anymore, but I can still find it because when I am in my inbox, I can see, well, there is this project. Okay, so maybe I should file this properly. It's not in the inbox, right? This is my next to-do. So my next step is to put it in a proper place. So maybe let's go down to 200 OK, next 200 OK. Let's move it down here. And now I have a proper to-do and a proper project. But this is messy. I should probably drill down a little bit. Maybe I just want to work on this right now. So this is narrowing a buffer. Standard feature in Emacs. Very nice in org mode. Okay, so it's a project. So it has lots of different to-dos, right? So he said he wants an image gallery of some Emacs related pictures. I mean, that's a kind of a weird task, but let's do it. So first, let's find some Emacs related pictures, maybe. And then maybe we should copy them to some server. No, not some, to the customer, so of course, to server. And then what should we do? Like create a gallery page. Then we should probably deploy it somewhere, like this gallery page.
Sorry, can you reopen the email message out of here?
Of course I can totally reopen my email message because I have a link here, so I can totally just jump into it. Yes. Should I read it again, or did you just want to test if I can actually go back to it? I can totally go back to it. And this is just one place that I can jump to, right? I can jump to all kinds of stuff because Emacs has an intrinsic bookmarking feature. So everything that I can do in Emacs can be bookmarked. And since I can do everything in Emacs, now everything is linkable. And this is quite nice. So I never lose context. I have my meeting minutes at the same place where I have my to-dos, where I probably have some code snippets, where I have emails, all kinds of stuff. I will never lose track of anything ever again, unless it's my fault, right? And this can still happen. Okay, so deploy the gallery page, inform the customer that it's done. We are done. This is the point where I would have jumped back to the email. And write the bill. And send it, right? And send it. Okay, proper spelling. Okay, so maybe we can say the deadline for this is tomorrow, but we already schedule it for today or something. And then we can, if I save this, I can see, okay, there is a new to-do that I should do. It's actually a project. Create a static page of Emacs, and I can directly jump into it. Quite nice. Okay, so first things first, because I want to bill this person, and he said I should bill him more, I should probably track my time somehow, right? Of course I can go down that rabbit hole and find some good tool that bills me money to do that, or I could just use Emacs. So I will track my time on every specific thing that I can do, and it's nice because I can directly do it within my to-do system. So I can later send a very specific bill that says I spent this much time on every single task. So let's first find some Emacs related pictures. So I'm starting the clock. It starts today at 7 p.m. 41. Okay, so now all the time that I'm speaking and not working will be billed to this legendary important customer. But he only said I shouldn't leave Emacs. I'm totally still in Emacs, so all is good. Okay, so fortunately I have a place with some Emacs related pictures because I'm just giving a talk on Emacs, which has some pictures in there. So maybe I should jump to this very deeply nested directory. It's far, far away. It's somewhere in mount, shared, switch drive, org, reference, 200, okay. Ultimate getting started guide for startups. So I mean, I could totally type that in, but it's very far away. Or I could just use Projectile. It's a tool that understands the various kinds of projects that I'm in. For example, because I have a Git repository, or I have a gem file, or I have a package JSON file. Not even sure if Clojure files. Of course, it's a Clojure, it's a Lisp tool, so it totally works. So now I'm in this folder, but now I can drill deeper. I want to go to a specific place. I want to go down to talks, Emacs, playing like an instrument, org. Okay, and here I have some images. Quite nice. Of course I can watch it, look at all of those images, but this is kind of a bad situation to just look at them like this. But it's nicer. I can actually start like a thumbnail mode and go through the images like this and look at them. No, it's quite nice. I can jump to the next one if I usually don't use this keyboard a lot, so if it doesn't work, it's just my mistake. It's never Emacs's mistake. Okay, so let's do a quick voting. I will go through those images and you say which ones I want to use, and magically all of them will be copied, but not the other ones. So let's start maybe here. So let's, not Emacs related, huh? All of them are, that's totally Emacs related, huh? Okay. Next one, totally not good enough. That's Emacs related, right? Okay. That one, I like that one as well. Then this is totally not Emacs related, but anyway, there's an Emacs, but still maybe no. 200, okay, no, nothing. This is totally Emacs related. This is by the way, this is this guy called Richard Stallman. He's wearing a weird hat. This is yes, he's actually called. In this talk, he calls himself Saint Ignatius, and it's a very prolonged talk on why VI is bad and Emacs is good. But he also says, there's a church of Emacs, of course, but he also says, like any church, don't go too far into the details. Yes, I'm a saint of the church of Emacs. Well, okay, maybe there's no more pictures of Emacs. Okay, so now I want to bring them somewhere. What did I actually do? Well, I marked all the... Oh no, they were marked before I started, and this is my mistake. All of them are marked. I'm so sorry. All of them are marked. Why are they marked? They shouldn't be marked. Now all of them are marked. Totally my mistake. See, usually they are not marked. I probably had an old buffer open where I did some testing. If I just go over them, I can totally mark them, right? And the same thing as in my image buffer. But the same thing happens in GUI things as well, right? Sometimes you like hold down the Alt key and mark a lot of stuff, and then you misclick, right? Okay, so same thing happened to me. My mistake. Okay, so let's get rid of them again, and let's quickly go through them, like the Clojure logo, Emacs definition, all of those Emacs demos, and the GNU wallpaper. Okay, so I marked a couple ones. Sorry that the voting went wrong. Okay, so this is on my machine. Now I want to go to this host. I remember the host name was called Emacs demo 200 OKCH. So let's get a split buffer, and I want to go to this machine now. How can I go there? So maybe I could like SSH or something, or FTP, or I could totally use a GUI program for that, or the shell or whatever, but then I would like have to do all this work again. I don't want to do it. So I do it within Emacs. So you have already seen, by the way, this is called dired, the directory editor, and there is like a nice extension to that called tramp. And with tramp, oh my god, I hit the, what did I do? I hit the power button for just a very short second. My screen is gone. What does it do? It's black. Is it shutting down? Why is it shutting down? It's black. It's, okay, so Dir editor is totally a nice feature of Emacs, and what we're going to do is like we will extend that like very nicely, because sometimes you need to go to other places, other machines than yours, right? And on these machines you have very bad intrinsic problems. For example, there's no editor that you like. Maybe there's VI, and then that's okay, but Emacs users don't always like to use VI. So there's that. And even if there is VI, it might not have your configuration, and it has no connection to your local settings, it has no connection to your machine. So you have to like SCP stuff around or whatever. It's very, very tedious. So do we have? Yes, we have. This is totally not true. This is a different screen now than mine. Hi, I want to mirror that, please. How do I say in render it should mirror? I think I have to drag and drop them. Yes. Does anyone know why hitting the power button for like 1/10 of a second will shut down the machine? I think I never hit that button before. Okay, there we go. Let's go back to the images. Talks, playing Emacs, images. Okay, so a third time is the charm, huh? Like, let's mark a couple of those, if he lets me. Okay. Get a split buffer and go to this machine. So I can totally go to this machine through various means from within Emacs, through tramp. Tramp understands all kinds of protocols, and one of them is SSH, and I just happen to know that I can access this machine, right? The customer said so. SSH, and then I can SSH to all kinds of different things. For example, this machine, he remembers that I went there once before, And now for the demo part, I have to start this machine actually. Yeah, because I'm going to do a lot of editing on a remote machine, and I didn't want to be tightly coupled to the internet working, but I'm totally tightly coupled to not rebooting. I apologize. Okay, so let's wait for the VM
You
to start.
already left Emacs twice.
Oh, I should have. I could totally have done that with him. It's true. I could have done both of them in Emacs. Who knows how many shells are inside of Emacs? How many shells are built into Emacs?
At least four.
At least 4. Wow. Okay, you know one more than me. Which of them?
Well, there's eShell.
Yes.
There's shell.
Yes.
I think
Term.
term.
Yes. And then
Isn't there also eTerm? Isn't that different?
No, eTerm is an E17 module as far as I know, but eTerm? I don't have an eTerm.
Okay.
We know exactly the same amount of shells. So Emacs comes with great shell integration built-in. So you're totally right. I should have done all of this. But I will get to those. Okay, so finally I can totally connect to this machine. SSH, Emacs, demo. Yes, I want to go to this machine. Now that, since I rebooted, I haven't unlocked my SSH personal private key.
That's not counting as leaving Emacs.
No, this is within Emacs. I'm SSHing and I get a nice pop-up. This is within Emacs. It's magic secret stuff. It's perfect. And now I can add a password to unlock it. Now I need the password for the machine actually. And that already sucks, right? I probably should be able to log in without a password on the machine, but we could do that. How do we do that? We add our SSH key to the... Why is it so slow? To the authorized keys. That totally works, right? So let's get one more split down here and find my private key so that in the future I don't have to log in anymore with the password. If he lets me. SSH and then some public key, maybe this one. Let's go back here, authorized keys, and copy it in here. Okay, all is good. For the future I don't have to do this anymore. Okay, let's get rid of one of those buffers and then do some work. Okay, so now there is a www folder and I can probably access this, hopefully. Oh, this is bad. All of my tabs, of course. So let's quickly restore all of my tabs. Okay, this doesn't count. Rebooting totally. This doesn't count. And this also doesn't count because this person wants an image gallery that works in modern browsers, right? He didn't say so, but he meant it. He totally meant it. Okay, that's okay. Let's go there. Okay, there's an empty thing. Okay, let's maybe create a index HTML file and see what happens. So now I'm in web mode. Web mode is quite nice. It has like cool things. For example, if I don't remember how to write HTML, I can add an HTML snippet and say Emacs image gallery. And then let's reload. Okay, that totally works. We want to get those images over there. Now comes for the fun part. This is what I was building up to. I can easily copy them over now because I can just say C for copy, and then I can go down one. No, I cannot because there is no open buffer. Here, I copy them, and then I say I want to copy it to the other buffer. And then it copies all of those files over there. Quite nice. Will take a while because it's through the internet.
How did you add HTML template? Is this a web mode?
This is a web mode feature. Web mode is totally legendary. Web mode is nice. Web mode, you should all use it. If you have to do like any kind of web markup thingy, it's totally awesome. You can do code folding, jumping around. It's quite nice. Web mode. Okay, so the copying is done. And we still have our index file. Okay, what's next? What did I want to do actually? I don't remember. Image DLDs. Ah, yes. Okay, just for kicks, I can do cool stuff now. Because now, let's say I need a shell because I want to have a gallery here, right? So I probably need to have some list of file names or something. I could totally use DRED for that, but I want to show cool stuff, so let's use eShell. eShell is a shell written in elisp, so it's 100% portable. That's already nice. So you've got the same shell on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, and other weird operating systems. And now, magically, I'm in the right directory on this remote machine. And no one's amazed. I mean, I'm totally amazed. Huh? So if I say ls, this is a remote machine, right? And I can totally copy stuff from my machine, like home, that's my machine, to home and here or whatever, right? And since it's a shell, I can do everything that regular shells can do, but I can also write Lisp. Who knows what Control-X-F usually does? It actually does find file. So I can totally say find file. It will open this file in a buffer if, yes. So I can do everything that I can do in elisp and everything that I can do in a shell and even in a remote system. Okay, so let's get a list of all of those file names. And of course I can totally do it like with org and then say what print $4. Is it like this? I'm never sure. I think, maybe. Does it work? Yes? No? Okay, so it's not 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's an 8. I should have counted. I could totally do it like this, but who remembers this? I mean, this is weird stuff, right? This is totally weird. So I should do it differently. I'm still in a text editor, so I could just go up there and maybe like copy this stuff over here and go back to my index.html file and paste it there.
Can you scale the font a bit?
I can totally scale the font for that because I have a shortcut made for it. This is a custom feature because I cannot for the life of me remember the original one. Okay, now I can, let's go for a little more fun, right? I forget this again because this is super slow, right? Who hates it if they have to write like markup and then go over to the browser and then reload? We're Clojurists, right? I mean, this should be live, but we're not doing Clojure, we're doing old school shit. But still, it should be better. So what can I do? I can actually start HTTP, an HTTP server within this remote thing. That's quite awesome. So now I have on port 8080, I have something going. Port 8080. But this is still like with reloading. So I can save stuff, go over there, reload. This is still not good enough. I can do one better. I can start a mode called impatient-mode because I'm an impatient guy and now I have this fun new namespace imp and all of the things that I will be doing in here are totally live. I don't even have to save. I'm just doing stuff. Quite nice stuff. Okay. If that's not playing it like an instrument, then I don't know. Okay, so I wanted to have those things here, right? So let's get them back. Let's go over here and copy them over here. This is obviously wrong, so let's go and do some Vim magic because, I mean, who knows the old joke? What is Emacs lacking? A good text editor. So luckily, someone wrote Vim in elisp. It's called evil mode for some weird reason, and it's great. I mean, not that Emacs cannot do this, but it's under this archaically weird shortcut, and for Vim it's so much easier. And this is all live. Okay, so now we can do cool stuff. So who knows how to do an Emacs macro? Only 2 people. Okay, amazing, right? Okay, finally, something that you don't know. Thank you. Okay, so have you ever had to do the same thing a couple of times? Like never, right? I mean, that's not the business that we are in, right? We're always doing cool stuff that's new and it has to be done once. So I have to do, you guys know HTML a little, right? So, I mean, I want to do a list, right? I want to have a list of stuff. Right? So I want to have a list of stuff, right? So I have to write li around all of them, and I kind of want to have a link to those images so that I can see them. So I have to write a lot of code. It's very bad, and I have to do this for all of them, right? So of course I can do copy paste or whatever, or I can just do it once and then say please repeat it. And that's what I'm going to do. So I will say, I want to start a new macro, and I will write the li tag, jump to the end, write the li tag, go to the one down and say, my macro is done. And then I just repeat it a couple of times. And this is already quite good. So we need a UL tag around that, UL tag around that, and maybe give it some better spacing. Okay, so this is already looking good, but it's totally not pictures anymore, right? So something went wrong. I need to add some picture magic to that. So I need to actually write an image tag in here. Same thing. It's very tedious, so I'll just do it once. If I can type correctly. Typing in front of people is the worst. I can never do it. I think it's just here, right? It's in the same folder. So now I have put myself into a bit of a pickle. Okay, here we go, down there, down here. Where did I start? Did I start here? I forgot.
Yes.
Yes? Yes, nice. Totally works. Okay, and now I just said repeat the last macro. I just said E for repeat, but if it would be a gazillion times, I could just say 1 gazillion E, and it would do it. Or I could say until there's an error, because maybe I hit the end of the buffer or whatever. Right, so those macros, they are mighty powerful. It's really amazing. Okay, but now the gallery looks weird because all those pictures are too big. This doesn't work. So let's add a little bit of styling. Let's maybe say those images, they cannot be bigger than what? Like max height 2 EM or something? EM, I said EM, maybe a little bigger. I can. By the way, who knows how to do this, huh? Vim is great. Huh? Increasing numbers is the best. And then I don't want to have those dots. Those are totally ugly. So it's like, I think list style. Who remembers? No one remembers, right? So we need something better. We need a mode that understands CSS or something. That will be great. So let's extract the CSS code out into its own file. Let's call it style CSS. Yes. This is only so slow because I'm doing it on a very remote machine. Unfortunately, it's true. It could be faster if it would be local. Okay. Let's do some indentation magic. Okay. And now I can say UL list style type. Wow, it knows all the stuff. None. Well, but it doesn't reload. Why? Because I didn't say this buffer should also be an impatient buffer. So maybe I should do this. And then, also I didn't link it actually. So who remembers how to do that? I never, like link rel style sheet. By the way, I don't write a lot of HTML and CSS in my regular job. This is like just, I try to figure out a way how to present a lot of Emacs features with something that everyone is vaguely familiar with. I usually write code or emails. This is what I do. Style CSS. Okay, now we've got some magic going. Okay, list style type none, max height. What else can we do? Maybe give it a margin of some pixels or something, and maybe a border. How does it work? Border 2 pixels solid black. Black is bad, of course. And why does it not fill? Why does it not show? It
does.
Border.
It does.
It totally does. Because black is stupid, huh? How about dark, golden, rod? That's a better color. It totally does. Whew. I'm so stupid in front of people. It's amazing. Okay, so it's a very ugly image gallery. Let's make it a little less ugly. By the way, did you see how magically it shows me what color those colors are? This is quite nice, right? So who knows what this color is? And obviously it's red. Right? Anywhere in Emacs where I'm typing any kind of color, I can see what color it is. It's some weird color mode. Who knows how that mode is called? Because I forgot. Who knows how I can see all the modes that are active in my buffer? Super important because Emacs is self-documenting. Right? So I say Control H for help, M for mode, and now I can see all the glorious modes that are working in here. Autocomplete, auto-composition, all kinds of stuff. And something probably is called here, rainbow mode. Colorized strings that represent colors. Nice. I forgot how it's called and I remember now.
How did you do the help?
I said Control H for help, and then I said M for mode.
Oh, cool.
Yes, this is actually super interesting because there's other kinds of self-documentation that we will see. By the way, I totally lost all the good buffers that I had, right? Wouldn't it be good if I could go back to the composition where I had like the HTML file and the CSS file? Of course I can say like whatever, close this one and open the other one and then go down here into index, whatever. This was already quite okay because there's good tooling, but wouldn't it be better if I like had a stack of all the things that I had open and I could go back and forth in any way that I wanted to? Wouldn't that be awesome? Like I could go forward and back. This is pretty. This didn't work. Back and forward. Yes, totally works. This feature is called winner mode. It's I think it's even built in. I'm not sure. I forgot, but I can check. Winner mode. Who remembers winner mode? It's totally in winner EL. Winner EL is part of Emacs Lisp, so it's totally built in. Have you ever had more than one window open, or more than one buffer open, or more than one split open? I assume yes. And some people, they like to use like the window managers to drag around windows and make them like stick nicely or whatever. I think that sucks. You should have like a tiling window manager, but even the tiling window manager sucks because say I do this and this and this and then move it there, and now I want to go back to the old configuration. Should there like be a stack? That would be nice. Emacs has that. Emacs has winner mode. Emacs remembers all the configurations of buffers that I ever had, and I have it mapped to Control-C left, so I can go back in the stack of all the configurations that I had before and Control-C right. Quite nice. Okay, so let's go back to the CSS and make it look a bit
undo.
What? Undo?
Winner undid undo.
Yes, obviously you can do this. So I've written down a little bit of, no, I lost it. I wrote down a little bit of CSS at some point, but
it's pretty enough.
It's totally pretty enough, right? I mean, we can like do rounded corners. I mean, it's very ugly, Phil. It's very, very, very ugly. Like,
so why aren't you using this Emacs web browser to show this stuff?
Yes, the Emacs web browser, there's multiple ones, of course. One that I like to use is called OO. There's also good like good bookmarks. Like you could use read Hacker News, for example, very nicely. Who reads Hacker News? Yes. Do you also hate it when you go to like an article and there's 40 gazillion pages tracking you and it just loads for eons? Here, like Vice.com. Vice is like amazingly bad, but if you open it in Emacs, it's like instant because there's no JavaScript. But this is the downside: there's no JavaScript, and there's also no CSS. Right? So, for reading news.
So let's see your image gallery.
Yes, we totally can do that, and it will work. It will just look better. It will totally look better. Yes.
Is the browser built in?
Yes, OO is totally built in. Yes. And something is taking a long time. It contacts the host for some reason. This is because I'm using the live reloading feature. There's like JavaScript embedded. So it has like a JavaScript page that embeds my original page. This is why this is the proper version without JavaScript. But if we reload here, this works. If I copy this in here, it should totally work. That's my image gallery. Totally works. 100% works. I'm not saying you should look like at Flickr or whatever in Emacs, but like honestly, reading like news pages, like really going to Hacker News and then going to the Vice page, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is very fast internet here. And I have all kinds of ad blockers enabled. I forgot I have all those ad blockers. So this can take like sometimes 30 seconds or whatever. And there's like all kinds of ads embedded and whatever. And in here, it's just instantaneous. So Where were I? I tried to make an image gallery that didn't completely suck, but let's continue with it just sucking. Okay. No one complained, but I'm doing very unprofessional stuff here. I'm writing code on a remote server and it's not even in revision control. Why did no one say you totally suck, you know, dickhead? We should put this stuff under version control, right? I mean, I think it's totally alright to once in a while open a file on a remote server. Not that I'm doing a lot of coding on a remote server. This is like an edge case, right? But opening like configuration files totally is a thing. So let's make this a Git thing. Let's call magit init, which runs git init. It asks me where do you want the repository, and I say yes, please, in this directory. And then it says there's all kinds of untracked files, and so let's add a couple of them, or maybe just let's add all of them. This is probably faster. This would all be instantaneous if it would be on my machine. I took the wrong files, they are big. So now I staged all files and I can say this is my first commit or something. This is really slow because it's on the remote machine. Oh, like honestly, on my machine it's all instantaneous, so probably we should switch back. Why is it loading? Who knows why it's loading? By the way, if you are stuck in like a recursive thing or something, who knows how to make that spinner go away if it's like a bad code? Like if Emacs gets stuck, what do you do? Yes.
Control G.
Control G, that's the one. Yes, so I could totally Control G this and then say I don't want to have this all staged. This is too much. Let's just stage the index file for the moment because it's remote and whatnot, and let's make a commit out of that.
Binary files.
Pardon?
Binary files.
Yeah. So what's happening? Commit. Please commit. Yes, opening remote file, background none. This is still very slow. What's happening on my machine? It randomly reboots. Doesn't work.
Because it can't detect your email address because you don't have a host name in the VM.
Ah, this is true.
Why don't you copy the whole thing to your machine?
Yeah, I totally should do this. Let's do this. This is so much smarter. I mean, honestly, you should never like do real development on a remote machine. I never do it. I just thought this would be like a nice gimmick, but obviously I kind of fail with the nice gimmicks. Let's copy it to temp where it belongs. Yes, recursive copy of that.
Where it belongs.
Yeah, I mean, it's, honestly, it's not a very playful gallery so far. Okay, so let's go to temp and do something there. Thanks for the good suggestion. This is a very good suggestion. Okay, let's call magit init here. Then I can stage all the things. I can totally commit it. It's instant. It's really the best thing since revision control, like Git within Emacs. I can see all the regular things and I can say like initial commit. Okay, it's really nice. You can do everything. You can like merge, you can push, you can rebase, you can diff different branches, you can narrow down and see only specific commits. It's instant for everything. It's really nice. Let's maybe do a small change because we don't have links to the images yet. I want to be able to click to them and see the full width. This will be the end of my web demo, but let's see magit once in action nicely. So we'll kind of do the same thing. Maybe I first have to kill the HTTP server now and then start it again. Yes, and then say impatient-mode. Because this is in a new directory now, right? Forbidden. Forbidden. Let's make it different. Let's just open it with an external tool. Let's open it with Chromium. There we go. Because live reloading, that's 5 minutes ago. Now it's only about magit. Okay, I want to have some links for this. So again, let's make a macro and say I want to have like an href. That's going somewhere, and this is now I have to focus. Oh no, this is much better. Like this, of course. Can go back, copy it in there, go back, do it like this, go down here. Hopefully, not defining a macro. Okay, so I lost it. href. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm doing some changes to this machine, and let's leave this one out here as well, and then add something up here or something. Now Megit shows me all the changes that I did in a nice manner. Who sometimes has to do a patch commit in Git? Do you know what a patch commit is?
Oh.
Yes, sometimes, like most people just say like git add dot or something, like add everything, and that's totally proper, but sometimes I want to make, I made two different things and I want to make like a semantic commit, and sometimes I even did two semantically different things in one file, so I probably just want to stage this because I totally wanted to get down this. I don't know who typed ADF, so we should get rid of that and kill it, discard hunk. And now we have staged just those changes. Quite nice, right? And of course I can commit this as well. Some message, huh? Or let's ignore that. Okay, so there is Megit, remote editing, live editing. Ah, yes. I also want to show something else. If you completely fucked up, sometimes I do, you probably know the undo feature, but who knows undo tree? 3 people, 4. I know who you know it from, so that doesn't count. So one more magical feature of Emacs, because undo usually is a linear line, right? I can undo and I can redo, but sometimes you do something and it's wrong. You go back, then you do something new, it's kind of a new branch, and then you realize, oh no, I wanted to go back, but you can't. In Emacs you totally can, because you've got undo tree, and it actually shows you a tree, and I didn't do a whole lot of different things, but I can totally switch between the different branches. Quite nice. Undo tree, I think it's built in as well. So I showed that. Yes, I could totally do other things as well, but let's leave that out. I did this. Okay, let's go back to our small little project. What was it called? It was called Important Customer. Who knows what I know where it is. It's down here.
Your agenda?
Pardon?
Checking your agenda?
Yes, I could totally have checked my agenda. You're so right. Yes. Thanks very much. I could also have checked my Git, by the way, because it's there. And I can jump to this change.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways, and I didn't figure out one good. Usually I do. Okay, so we already did a couple of those things. We found Emacs-related pictures, right? We totally copied them to a server. We created a gallery, and we already deployed. All of those things are done. Okay, so this is all quite nice. But what I really need now is a different workflow, because who knows a Pomodoro technique? A couple, yes. So Pomodoro technique, for the 3 people who don't know it, is you work for 25 minutes on something very intensely focused, and then you get like a 5-minute break to slack off and read Hacker News or your favorite Emacs blog. And I really need to have Pomodoro within Emacs. So let's write it. Let's write some Emacs Lisp. Wouldn't it be great if I had a timer that starts at 25 minutes every time that I start a new clock in Emacs? That would be nice, right? I mean, I would like it. Who knows how to do that? Okay, perfect. Thanks. But because now this is an important part, because Emacs has lots of great functionality and there's lots of good libraries and whatever, and you can install other libraries. But you cannot only write your own libraries, you can extend the other ones, and it's so much easier than usually, because how do you usually extend other people's stuff? You got to download their repository, read all their code, understand it, compile it, change something, and then use that thing on your machine. I mean, you kind of fork the whole thing. But now I just want to make a small amendment. I want to say, well, when I clock in here, I want to see a timer down there. This is not a major change. I shouldn't have to go to org mode, fork org mode, build this one feature, and then use my fork of org mode. Right? I mean, this is weird. And I don't have to do it because Emacs is not only a Lisp that I can change at runtime, it's also completely event-oriented. And I would bet that org-mode, because it's a well-maintained library, throws a specific hook when I go into this. Maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, I can still change it, but maybe it has a hook. So first things first, I want to change what happens when I clock in. Who knows what happens when I clock in? Who knows how to figure out what happens underneath a keystroke? This is one of the coolest features of Emacs because it's not random, you know stuff. Yes, please.
You press Control-H-K.
K, maybe. I would have a C, but let's try Control-H-K.
And then you press the key.
This is very much, very similar. Let's figure out what that does. Control-H-C, what? Doesn't it work? Control-H-C, Control-H-K. This runs describe key, okay, and my shortcut would have run describe key briefly. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so a perfect answer. So one of the coolest things, there's lots of good tools out there, right? Like IntelliJ, but you cannot like change anything and you don't know what happens underneath every menu. Right? There is like the application and there is an interface to them and they're completely disjunct. Not so in a Lisp, right? In a Lisp you can change everything, you can see everything. So here I want to know what happens when I actually clock in. So I say Control-H-K because I just learned that. I would have said Control-H-C. And now it asks me to describe the key, which means I just type what I would have typed in anyway, which is Control-C, Control-X, I for clocking in. And now it says, okay, it runs the command org clock-in, which is a regular Lisp function, which I could also call like this. Right? By the way, that I have this nice fuzzy matching here down there. This is called smacks. It's a very nice and idle mode, smacks and idle mode. Okay, and it also tells me this function org clock-in is defined in org clock. And now I am totally at the place where org clock-in is defined, and I could totally read all of this code, and but I will make it a little quicker. Like I said, Emacs Lisp is event-oriented, and those events are called hooks in Emacs. So I would imagine that when I clock in, the org people, they made a hook for that, so that I can add more code. So clock in hook, there's totally one. I could have read the function, right? But it's like 50 lines of code, so I discarded it. Okay, so I want to add my code to this hook. It's like events, right? Everyone knows event-oriented programming, like in JavaScript, PubSub, event boost, something, right? Okay, where do I write new code? Of course, in Scratch, right? I can just type out random stuff. Okay, so adding hooks is easy. It's called add hook. Then my hook is called org clock in. So nice. I have like auto-completion and everything through a nice library called autocomplete. And I have document strings. If this isn't the nicest language, then I don't know. And then I want to add something. So I want to add a lambda that runs my code, but I don't know yet what code I want to run. I want to have a timer. Okay, so maybe we can test it with like a message first or something. Let's say message, this works. This should work. Let's evaluate that. Let's go to the things and clock into this task. And we get this message. This works. Okay, so far so good. So now we know how to add code through an event, but I want to change to a timer, and how do I know which kind of functions I can find within my system? Because, I mean, I can build a timer myself, but maybe someone came along and already did that. How do I find functions? How do I find functions inside her? How do I know what Clojure can do? Because, I mean, it's a Lisp, right? So there's a gazillion functions and 2 data structures. Who remembers all those gazillion functions? I don't. So Emacs has this cool function where I say Control-H-A, if I type it correctly, Control-H-A, and now I can search for a regular expression through the document string and the function name. So I'll just try org timer or something, and there it is, but I could also just have searched for timer. It's not like too many. And there's really an org timer, and there's like an org set timer, and it says prompt for duration and set a timer. So maybe let's try that one out quickly. Org set timer, org, what is it called? Org timer, set timer, of course, timer, set, obviously. 25 or something. How many minutes left? No, this is not right. How do you do it correctly? I forgot. Set, it's not in quotes. Of course. Not in an org buffer. Yes, of course. So this function only runs within an org buffer, but it seems to kind of work. So let's control, please. Yes, I can type. Let's add it here. Let's get rid of the message. Okay, evaluate it again, go back to the things, and then clock in again. And now we have a very big problem because the beamer or the thing is not big enough. Do you see how there's more stuff down here? On the very right, I promise you, there's totally...
But it still says this works.
Yes, because this is
another hook.
It's a different hook.
Yeah,
right? It's event-oriented programming. Right? So I totally promise you there is a timer. Okay, and now even if there wouldn't have been a hook, you can totally always advise a function. So you probably know in dynamic languages sometimes you can do like monkey patching or something, right? Or freedom patching as we like to call it. And in Lisp you can go so much further. You cannot just like reopen a namespace and rewrite stuff. No. For every single function that you call, you can say, I want to write code that runs before it, after it, within it, replace it. You can do anything. It's called advising a function. That's I'll just show you. Oh no, I can totally. We can totally use Google. Fuck it. Huh? No. We should. Yes. We totally should do it in Emacs because we shouldn't use a browser at all. Because we should ask the manual how does it work. Because Emacs not only describes all the Emacs features, it also includes a manual for writing Emacs Lisp. It's the best book written on Lisp. So I say Control H. I, and then I have somewhere Emacs Lisp, elisp, and then where would it be, like data types, evaluation. You could go totally through that. No, I didn't prepare for that. Somewhere it says advising functions, maybe under functions.
Can you Google what
Yes, advising functions.
Advising functions. Yes, I found it. I didn't prepare for that, and I found it. I'm so happy. You wouldn't believe. Okay, advising functions. So you could, for example, say for this function, this is the function that exists, and I want to add code before this function, and it's totally a thing. I'm totally doing this in my projects. For example, when I mistype stuff, I want to have spell checking, right? This is not a properly written word. I have spell checking in here. By the way, good stuff. iSpell and aspell, and what else does it use? Flyspell. aspell and iSpell is a Linux thing, and then Flyspell is the Emacs wrapper around them. And now these things kind of have a small bug, because if I add something to the dictionary, it will completely run it will not rerun all of the spell checking on this buffer. So if I had like a weird word, this should be like a wrong word, and I have it like twice, and I add this to my dictionary, then this would still show up as wrong, usually. But I advise the function that when I add it to my dictionary, that it just reruns the thing. So advise, function advise. Here, and it's just this much code. By the way, this is totally good and readable. Do not lose all spell checking information after adding one word to a personal dictionary. Advice to recheck, blah, blah, blah. And again, this totally works on GitHub, Emacs. Don't even have to go to this page down here. Advice. So this is documentation and this is code. This is actually the real code. I said, okay, well, I want to advise the iSpell pdict save function, and after it has run, I want to run my function, which just says, okay, well, spell check the buffer again. Easy thing, but it's totally awesome, because before it was frigging me out, right? And now it doesn't. Advising a function, cool stuff. By the way, can you see, this is really my configuration. It's just text in org mode that can also evaluate itself. It's quite nice. Okay, so we did that. Go back to the tasks. Yes, let's go back to the tasks. And mark them as done. Yes, okay, so let's maybe add, fine, yes. Let's maybe write an answer to the customer, or what's the next thing? Yes, let's maybe write a mail to the customer. Where did it go? What? This is probably due to the fact that my machine died. This doesn't happen usually. I changed a lot in my mail configuration last week. This is probably not a smart thing to do. Just before, where is it? It's not here. But it's still here. But why? Did I delete it before by accident? Because as you can see, I tried a couple of things. Those are old mails. Huh. Okay, so I'm using org mode for this thing since 3 years, and honestly, I've never lost a link. This is the first time. I really don't know what happened. So let's reply to the guy and say, all finished. Right, so we can totally also send emails back. Okay. And what's the next thing? Okay, we want to make a clock report, right? So now I have tracked some time in here. I totally tracked some time in here, and I want to see how much. So let's see. It's probably not too much because I stopped all my timers before, but let's cheat a little and say, well, I worked on this longer. Okay, 29 minutes. Let's make a clock report for that. Now I have a nice little table that says, okay, well, I worked on this for so long. Okay, that's quite all right, but I want to have a better table that says on which task did I work, how long, and how much money did I earn. I can totally do this by changing the metadata of the generation of this clock table, and I can quickly steal one that I'm regularly using. Which is in ultimate tasks, talks, Emacs, org. It's down here somewhere, org clock. Yes, there it is. So I can add it actually to the project as like metadata. Let's make it here, and then say I want to run the clock on here. And I can give all kinds of, this didn't work, should it be up here? Yes. Okay, so now I have a table that is very nice. I can say how many levels down do I want to go. This should only work for the subtree of this, not for my whole things file. I can set when should it start, when should it end, right? I can totally move through here or completely change it out for some other date and go somewhere, right? Totally works. This is very important when billing customers, right? Like some want to have like weeklies or whatever, and then I can do other stuff. I can say, I actually want this stuff indented, so I can see what are the subtasks that were done here, which are tasks that are underneath under tasks. I can say I want to have it as a daily step, so I can add it like to a time tracking system of my customer if they have something, right? I mean, this is like a daily report now between the 30th of March until the end of time. So let's not use step day, and I can totally say how much money I'm earning on this. So let's maybe it's Lisp, so it should have a better. Okay, so I earned at least $100 in those 29 minutes. Okay, so far so good, but this should be a bill now, right? This is all text within Emacs. I can totally see this and mag it. I want to have this now as a proper table that I can add like to a LaTeX letter or something. We have tooling for that automates the whole thing, so we have very pretty things, but let me show it how you could do it manually. So I can export every org mode buffer into different formats. I can export it to iCalendar for all those appointments that I have. I can export it to HTML, LaTeX, plain text. You can expand on that. And now I just want to have like a LaTeX statement. Because who has ever written in LaTeX a table? Who remembers how to do it? Yeah, well, you're smart, okay? So I'm not, okay? I totally don't. So what I do is I export this file not into a PDF file. I just want to export it into a buffer that has LaTeX code. So I can copy paste it into my letter. So let's export it into a LaTeX buffer. I'm totally blind. L. Okay, so now we have a buffer that has all kinds of stuff, and somewhere it has a table in there. Nice, so I can totally copy paste this table.
You could also use, there's a minor mode for org table.
Yes, I totally do this a lot if I'm in, who has to write tables in markdown sometimes? This sucks. But it doesn't if you have Emacs. Like I should go to like a project of a customers. They have huge documentations all in Markdown, and they have lots of tables, and they don't align the text, right? So they probably use some tool for that, and it looks right on GitHub. But when you open it in the editor, it sucks. Let's quickly do this because it's such great information. Like let's create a markdown file, and this is totally markdown. I write a lot of markdown in other projects. Now let's have like a table, right? This is like, I don't know, foo, bar. It's like I don't even know how. It's so hard. But you can use the org table mode, like not org mode, but the org table mode, and it's awesome. Now I can totally say like what age, no, name age something, and let's I cannot type, I apologize, right? So name is someone, age is 18 or whatever, right? And then the only thing you have to remember, because it's actually orgs, it's actually markdown, I think you have to do this if you want to export it so that it looks nice on GitHub, because GitHub has a different notion of how tables should look. But this is an easy change. And in here you can do all the cool stuff like sum up columns, do all kinds of formulas, right? Because it's totally org mode, right? Okay, but let's add, I can take this table out and I could bring it to a LaTeX buffer, but I'll spare you the details. But it should be an invoice, huh? Let's assume I made the invoice, right? It's boring. Everyone knows LaTeX, so it's not cool. I think we did a lot of work, right? So we should say, okay, inform the customer we are done. I have sent him an email, and virtually I wrote the bill. So we should like enjoy a little. How should we enjoy? We should like read some news. There is this notion that RSS is dead because this bad company, Google, closed their reader. But I mean, who cares? Because Emacs has, I think, 3 news readers built in, and I'm using a 4th one. It's perfect. So this is called L-feed. I can totally read my news. It's again totally search driven, so this is my default search in the last 6 months ago, which is unread, but I can totally do something else, or I can search what is this weird company doing, and I can see all kinds of good stuff. They have incubators and whatnot. It's perfect. So reading news in Emacs is a thing. We already did some browsing in Emacs, that's good as well. Okay. So who's up for some coding? I think we did enough project management for a while. Maybe we should do some coding, right? Okay, so Emacs is not only good for Emacs Lisp, it's totally good for every language except the bad ones, right? So no one wants to write Java or C# in Emacs, but I actually write a lot of Ruby and JavaScript and Clojure in Emacs. And there's different, like I tried Haskell and it works. So I hear it's better in Emacs than other way. But so let's write some JavaScript. Let's open a JavaScript file somewhere, temp foo.js or something. Okay. We should have like a REPL feeling in JavaScript as well. This would be sweet, and we totally can. I can say run.js, and run.js gives me a REPL. Okay, that's quite nice, but I can also do these kinds of things and say I wanna like calculate this. This is quite nice, right? So and we have all kinds of good stuff in here. Like if I type stuff and it's all wrong, then it says, okay, you probably should add like braces. I totally did. Now it doesn't complain anymore. This is nice, right? So who knows how Fibonacci works? The test, right? So Fibonacci says Fibonacci is recursive, and it's always, you give it a number, and the result of Fibonacci is either 0 or 1 if it's smaller than 2. So if n actually is smaller than 2, just return n. If you do weird stuff like this, it will tell you, for example, this code has no side effects, right? So there's all kinds of goodness in there. We can try this. Well, did I do this correctly? Did I save it? What's wrong? Yes, now I have that Fibonacci function available. We can say fib of 2 and run this, and it's totally 2, right? Okay, if n, but n should be smaller than 2. If n is smaller than 2, return it. Otherwise, do something else. Return fib. I can never make those braces in the right spot. it's so bad. Okay, so now we have a whole Fibonacci function. And we can totally run it with like something bigger. It's totally 7, so I didn't evaluate this properly. Why doesn't it? Do I have to save? I think I have to save. Yes, now it re-evaluated it, and it's 13. Fibonacci of 7 is 13. You can go to Wikipedia and check. It's totally true. Yeah, it is. And I will write it in Clojure in a minute, so you can totally believe me. And it's totally cool. So it also has like doc strings and whatever. Doc strings. So if I'm on fib and I want to know what is the doc string of this, I can totally see it's doc strings, right? The doc string is doc strings. You follow me? It's very meta. I can totally jump to the definition of Fibonacci, which is trivial right now because it's in the same file, but it will also go to other classes. It will even go to stuff in your node modules folder. You can do all the regular things. It's quite nice. Okay, so let's do the same thing in Ruby. Or let's program some Ruby. Same thing. I want to have like a Ruby REPL. No, let's do it differently. Let's go into a real Rails project, like not like this gimmicky thing. There is a nice little company present right here called QuickShift. They are making a good product, and let's look at something. Where did I say I will go? I said I will look in the Shift model. Did you see how I deeply nested myself into this project? Right, I'm very far away from my temp folder where I just was. And now I'm in this file, and there's all kinds of stuff wrong in it. For example, this line here looks very wrong. It's very red. And Emacs totally helps me with that. Right? Emacs tells me, okay, someone is not writing idiomatic Ruby. So firstly, if you go there, it will totally say space before first block parameter detected. So if you don't know Ruby, what I'm doing here is like I call an anonymous function. It's called a block in Ruby. If I make this go away, then one less error message, but there's still error messages. And then if you know Ruby, you know you shouldn't like give a block to map, you should call the proc on the thing that you want to do. So what I'm doing here is like we have some data for a week, and I just want to map the IDs out, right, like a filter. So you do this differently in Ruby, and it says how to do it. It says pass &:: parent ID as argument to map instead of a block. It says me which code I should write. If I do exactly what it says, parent ID, and I give it some quotes and delete this, then mismatch parentheses. Then my error goes away. Right? So it's magic. So I didn't even start a REPL yet. This is just a very smart linter program in the background called Robocop, again by this Bozidar Batsov guy, who gives us all kinds of good Ruby and elisp and Clojure things. He's amazing. I'm a groupie. I met him once, so okay. Yes. So all kinds of stuff. Okay, so you've got these things down. So let's again write our Fibonacci. Like again back to the. No. Let's go back to here. I can again do all these cool things. I can like jump to definitions, but I can't because it needs Ruby running for that. Okay, and then say, yeah, of course. If you know Rails can run in different environments like development, testing, and production. So I say I want to run in development. Now I have a real, not only Ruby, I have a real Rails REPL running in the background. And then I can do all kinds of things. I can say I want to know what a scope is. And then I actually jump into core Rails code. This is not our code. This is like the library that we're using. And then if I want to know what does extend do, it's a C method. Okay, it just can give me the documentation of this. The C method cannot really show me the C code because that's compiled. But I could do other stuff. I could say, okay, what's the current scope, or whatever, and I can jump back to where I came from, right? The regular meta dot, the same as in Cider, drill down the rabbit hole, go back. You can do anything. Okay, so I will not write the Fibonacci because I kind of showed everything already. You can do the docstring lookups, you can totally do this, you can jump to definition, you can evaluate stuff. This is totally evaluatable. If I run Ruby, what is it called? Ruby inf? Ruby, I always forget. I don't know why they call them differently. Inf-ruby. Inf-ruby. So now I have a Ruby process attached here, and I can totally run Ruby code. No such process. This is still starting. My Ruby is still starting. Maybe because I'm running a Rails process in the same Emacs already. This is probably overkill. I'm already running a Lisp REPL, a JavaScript REPL, and a Rails REPL. So maybe the Ruby REPL doesn't work, right? But if I killed the other one, rope, or what is it called, Rails, if I kill this one, then maybe this will work. Totally makes sense, right? You can only have one Ruby process in your Emacs. Okay, I can live with that. And I can totally do things, right? 1 + 1 is 2, and it's Ruby. Okay, last thing. Let's do some Clojure. Okay. For this, I will go into an existing awesome Clojure project, our website, static site generator. I will start a Lisp REPL in Cider. This will now connect to the REPL. Are you all using Cider already? Because then I don't. Who doesn't use Cider? Okay, at least 3 people. That's good. So now I have a real REPL running, but within Emacs. I can do the regular things in the REPL. I have so many REPLs here. I can do things, right? But I can also do it like in a file. I can say source and then some like demo or CLJ or something. There's already some stuff in there. I should get rid of that. I can evaluate that, I can evaluate that, and I can write some code. Or I can figure out like if I had like a list of stuff and I don't know how to make this distinct, I can search for stuff. Do you remember how I searched for an elisp function? Right here I can do the same thing. I can search with a regular expression for all the Lisp functions. I can say, for example, distinct. It's a super boring example because it's actually called distinct, but it searches through the docstring and the function name. So if you can come up with a better example, it works. I'm coming up with it because distinct and distinct question mark are something that I sometimes get wrong. So distinct on this totally works, but if I run distinct question mark, it totally doesn't work, right? Because I gave it one argument, right? And here it says return true if the arguments are. Okay, so that totally makes sense. So it should be like arguments. Yeah. Okay, so let's do a little more complicated coding. Let's again write the Fibonacci function. It should take something like this. And I'm doing it in the worst possible way, like regular, recursive, no fancy stuff, because I'm showing not how to write good Clojure, I'm showing how to use Emacs and Cider. Yes, so if n is smaller than 2, return n, and otherwise, please return Fibonacci of, I can't type anymore, this is... Fibonacci of n plus 1, right? It's minus, thanks. It's minus. Okay, so let's do this. N minus 2. Do this and then figure out, is it still 13? Totally still 13, okay. So far nothing totally awesome, but again I can look at the docstrings, for example. If this had some docstring and I wanted to know it, I can totally see it. Doc for Fibonacci is some docstring, right? I can totally again jump to the definition, which again is boring because it's in the same thing, but if it would be, for example, distinct, and I can again go down here. Now I'm in core Clojure code, I can drill further down what does actually contains do, because who remembers contains is so weird. I always get it wrong and then I just jump back, right? Okay. And now for one of the coolest things, something that even the other nice IDEs in Clojure doesn't do, is refactoring. If you want to extract a function, I hear that cursive cannot do it. And
No.
Is it true?
Not yet.
Not yet, right? And Cider does it like since forever because Botsidar is the best. So if I wanted to, because this is very complicated code, right? This should be its own function. Let's agree on that. I can extract it to a function and like call it algorithm or something. Just works. There's like a gazillion different refactoring tools available, like put stuff in a net, everything. There's gazillions of things for that. Okay, I think that was about it for the demo of Clojure, right? So if you want to know more there, check out Cider and Clojure-refactor. The refactoring is actually Clojure-refactor. The REPL things is actually Cider. Okay, so let's go back to that, and maybe I have some more slides. They should be open, but they are closed. Playing, PDF, play, work. Okay, so I skip all of the things that we already saw. Yes. Okay, conclusion. So what I want to get to is the following. There's so many things that we can see and learn as developers, and it's kind of crazy. So this is a quote that I'm paraphrasing from the Diamond Sutra of Perfect Wisdom, very old, ancient text, and it goes like this. Developers, if there were as many Ganges rivers as the numbers of grains of sand in the Ganges, like this river, right, the big, tall river, would you say that the numbers of grains of sand in all those Ganges rivers would be very many? Would be very many, right? Very many indeed. Developers, if after studying and observing even a single function of Emacs Lisp, another person were to explain it to others, the happiness and merit of that would result from this virtuous act would be far greater. And it's very true, because, well, most work on the computer is done, is either text processing or consumption of text, right? So if you don't have a generic tool that can actually do this well, then it's either like if you were a carpenter that doesn't have a hammer, or you only have a 3D printer. Right? For me, those new tools like IntelliJ, they can do amazing things. Right? But one thing is, they change all the time. Right? It used to be Eclipse, then it used to be NetBeans. Those things change all the time. You lose all the knowledge. You cannot change them, and you can only use them for a couple of things. Right? So you maybe can use it very nicely for Java, but then you want to do C#, but then you're gone. So you should have some knowledge of some deep down paradigm. So if I would say it like Kant probably wouldn't, because I'm paraphrasing wrong, but he would say phenomena are infinite and you shouldn't chase them, right? Because you can never catch them. There's so much new stuff coming out all the time. You cannot keep up. I'm not saying that new stuff is bad. I'm not saying Lisp is the only holy grail. Not at all. But what I'm saying is you should try to figure out what's the core paradigm of the thing that you like doing. And you should get yourself familiar with that. There's like this Zen proverb that says, the tiger bites the thrower, the dog chases the mud ball. So imagine a guy throwing a mud ball, right? The dog would always chase behind, but you would never go to the source, and the tiger would immediately jump me and crush me. He would immediately get it done. So the thing is, go from the outside, move the focus from the outside, from all the things that you could do or try and learn, go to the inside and figure out what is actually the core of the thing that I want to do. So in conclusion, what is Emacs? It's a Lisp REPL, and this makes it magical because you can do anything with it. It's self-documenting. You saw that I never had to actually look up something in the manual. I can just check out what is Emacs doing, and I can change the behavior. It can be drastically changed. Many of those tools that I have shown you are not built into Emacs. They are libraries that people wrote. So to me, Emacs actually is like the Swiss Army knife, but not of text processors or text editors, actually of programs. It's the thing that I'm spending most of my time in, and not because I have to or whatever, but it turns out that the older I get, that I realize, okay, I'm being more efficient if I'm using this tool, which I understand, which I can change, which only runs on text, that I can put in revision control. It's all paradigms that I can completely grasp and continue to use over the years. It's a little bit like that. Yeah. Okay, so in conclusion, I would say skill comes with practice. And this is not to say that I did something great here. This is to say, if you're learning a tool like IntelliJ, you can click the one button and it's very complex and it's doing the one thing perfectly great. But then it doesn't work anymore, or you need to do a different language, and then you're just stuck. Right? I'm teaching young people, and they sometimes don't understand the difference between Java, the compiler, the text editor, their computer, the operating system. It's just one thing. Right? And you got to be able to split them out a little bit. So if you have a tool that you can continue to use, you can actually become virtuous over time. Which is nice, because it's our job to be able to do nice things. Okay, so further reading for you, if you're interested, would be to read the Emacs tutorial, Control-HT, or read the Emacs manual, Control-HR, or read the info manuals. I didn't even mention that. Control-H1Y is incredible, because your computer, if you have a Unix or a Linux, then you actually have info manuals. And if you want to learn what your computer can do, this is the best way to go, because all the info manuals of your whole operating system are in there. So it's not only Emacs, it actually can show you everything. So if you want to learn crazy stuff like VHDL or other stuff like WhatSpace 64, Corotil. Okay, can do awesome stuff. I'm using it all the time. You can just read it within Emacs. Okay, if you're interested in some of those tools, the core tools that I've shown you is org mode for all the organization, time tracking, reporting, project management, creating of these slides, for example, or books, anything, and Git for Git, and move for mails. And then there's this website that sometimes also writes nice stuff about Emacs. Yes. Okay, so I would say give yourself a chance, use Emacs. If you like the talk, you can totally head over to my configuration and steal some things. A couple of people forked that or just copied some data out of there. There's other good examples out there, of course. Bozidar Batsov has a good one, for example. Don't use Spacemacs or something, because that's, again, is a very complex beast. Comes very pre-configured, changes all kinds of defaults. Not saying it's bad, but it kind of goes against the spirit of the talk. If you're a good Vim user and you want to change quickly, it took me just I actually did Vim for like 14 years, and it took me half an hour to switch to Emacs, because I only had to figure out how to install evil mode. I don't need to install Spacemacs. You don't. Yes, and if you really liked it, you totally can put a star on the repo, but you don't have to. Okay, that's it. How long did I take? Too long, I guess.
No.
It's 9.
Exactly 9. Perfect. Okay. So. Yes. My to-dos say we have to go and have a beer.
Yeah, and I assume there are no questions which can't be discussed over.
Yes. If someone's leaving, thanks for coming. It was a pleasure. Thanks.